Hello and welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. I'm your host, Lynnaire Johnston. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about education marketing. This is not a topic that I've really delved into before, but just on my own, I've really been doing quite a bit of it. And now I want to expand my knowledge. So I've asked today's guest from Melbourne, Prosper Taruvinga, who has this most fabulous origin story. You're absolutely going to love it, to come along and join me today to talk about education marketing. Now, you are very welcome to add your comments and questions. And in fact, we'd love you to join in the comments for today's event and to be part of our conversation. We'll talk to Prosper first, and then we'll ask some questions of him towards the end of our time together today. Now, my colleagues Cher and Gillian are in the comments, and if you have any concerns, please do make sure that they are there to answer them, and they'll also put into the comments some links that you will find useful for today's LinkedIn Live. But now, without further ado, I would like to welcome to our LinkedIn Live Prosper Taruvinga, who is the founder of Live Long Digital. I can't tell you how long it took me to get that. Prosper Taruvinga from Live Long Digital. It's a great name, and I absolutely love it. Now, Prosper, you and I have spoken before. I've been on your show, and now I'm returning the wonderful chemistry that you and I struck up the first time, and now you and I are again talking today. So thank you so much for joining us today from Melbourne.
Lynnaire, the pleasure is all mine. I can't wait to see what you've got in store for your audience today, and I really appreciate being here today.
Well, it's fabulous to have you, and I would like you to start, please, by sharing with us your very touching and moving story, which is how you got from your home village in Zimbabwe to becoming a fabulously successful business owner in Melbourne, Australia. Please share that with us because it's absolutely wonderful.
Fantastic. And I really appreciate. Now, I think, Lynnaire, what you're doing is really amazing because you're showcasing to people what is actually possible, not only with LinkedIn, but also running a business. Okay. So that is exactly what happened to me. I had someone show me what was possible too. So that's why I take things like this very seriously. Now, you touched upon a little bit about Zimbabwe. Do you know where exactly that is, Lynnaire, on the map?
It's in a big continent called Africa.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. So I was born in a small town in Zimbabwe in Africa, and for us growing up was a little bit tough. See, I didn't have a lot of money or hope that I would amount to anything, and there was not a lot of people that I would look up to or know role models that would actually inspire me to expand my horizons. But my life actually changed, Lynnaire. You're not going to believe this. A bright-eyed Australian teacher came to work at my school. So if I could just give you an example of what things were like back then, inflation was at its all-time high in Zimbabwe. So people didn't actually have that aspiration to go work in any business or to actually be good at school. So there comes this young Australian teacher who's teaching teenagers mathematics. Okay, so automatically you can see that's one of the toughest subjects. And also, as teenagers, you start thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I'm about to sort of graduate and be something in life, and I haven't figured out what that was. So what this presented to me was an opportunity of what world looks like out there. So if you are just, growing up in a world where you have no role models, you don't have any aspirations for the future, and then somebody comes in and tells you, hey, you too can do what I'm doing, or you can do and have a happier existence elsewhere. So I started paying attention, and I took it upon myself to study, first of all, so I could be picked up in class, Lynnaire. But also it then also propelled me to actually want more, be more, and want to expand my horizons. So after the 2 years that she was at the school, she did like any normal person, or maybe it's an Aussie thing, I don't know. She said goodbye to the kids, and in true Aussie fashion said, hey, if any of you kids are going to be in Melbourne, why don't you look me up and we can have a cuppa. So for other kids, it was, yeah, goodbye, teacher. We'll see you whenever. But I took that as a challenge. And for the time after that, I just started studying, working so that I could either travel around Africa teaching as what she was doing, or come to Australia and actually expand my horizons. So it just so happened that I ended up in Australia, and and we're here now. So exciting stuff.
Amazing. And did you ever get to sit down and have a cuppa with your teacher?
Oh, I had more than a couple, Lynnaire. I she was and before people start thinking the other things there, I will just explain what happened. So as soon as I got to Australia, obviously I was starting to look for work and trying to get onto my feet. It took a while to have that happening. There's also other stories in between there, but once I started sort of settling in, I thought I would look up the teacher and just, if anything, thank her for having ignited my passion, or having started me up on the journey, because I wouldn't have been here or wanted to do what I'm doing now. So yeah, I started looking for her, and I don't know if it's the same in New Zealand, but if you're looking for people around here in Australia, there's certain people like private investigators that you can inquire with. But the private investigator that I started working with so that we could find her, also just as a cautionary thing, had to bring that case to the police, and just in case they never knew what I was looking for her
Right.
for,
Yeah.
just for her safety and things like that. Now, Lynnaire, you could maybe be wondering, why didn't I just look her up on LinkedIn or on Facebook or things like that? She is one of those people that has no social footprint. And where we ended up finding her is in the Northern Territory in Australia, helping other Aborigine kids as well. And she's still teaching. So
Wow.
going back to the private investigator story. So when we embarked on the journey, the police, I was then called into the police. They investigated. I had to leave my details there. And as I was leaving, the lady from the police said, you know what? I think this is a feel good story. If we can find this lady for you, would you want that we showcase that the police was also involved? Because the police is always known for all the criminal stuff. We want feel good stories to tell. And I didn't know what to say about that. And it just so happened that Channel 9 had left them a brief that if there's any feel good stories, we're looking for good human stories to tell. So I was then called in, and there was a PR person in there, and they said, hey, there could be an opportunity for you to showcase this on TV. Would you want this to happen? For me, I knew there was a possibility that this could be really, really good for me, but I didn't know what the teacher was going to respond with. I said, "Yeah, that was going to be fine," and then they said, "Okay, let's get started." And for this to obviously happen, we want to own the rights for this story. This is now Channel 9 taking over, and I felt like, wow, what have I gotten myself into? Um, 6 months later, they actually found her, but I didn't connect with her then. So they sent in a TV crew and a psychologist to actually find out if she wanted to be involved in the meetup and everything else. And on the day that it happened on TV, like what we're doing right now, live TV, and I just couldn't help myself. And it was one of those days that really, really showcased me that wherever you go and whoever you become, just make sure you send the elevator down, because there's so many people that are looking at you to learn from you, to expand from you. And we just connected from there. And ever since, I've pledged that I will be helping her on every one of her birthdays. I send her close to about 10,000 Australian dollars so she can also support a kid or somebody within that region where she's working, so that that kid can also get really good education, because I feel like that's the sort of social responsibility that I can do to support whatever she's doing out there. So wherever you are right now, if you are in in a place where kids are watching, because monkey see monkey do, you never know who you are inspiring, and you never know who is actually looking at you for inspiration. So that now became my reason entendre, Lynnaire, the reason for my existence. I now want to be a role model to the kids that are out there that might not have a role model, just because they're not represented by the people around them. So that is my journey.
Wow. Well, the video of your story meeting your teacher is available on YouTube, and when I watched it, it brought tears to my eyes. I just thought it was a fabulous story, and it's no surprise to me that you were the one child out of maybe dozens who she taught in Zimbabwe who really has turned their lives around, had ignited their lives, as you described it, and just really run with it. There have been some setbacks along the way, and if you have a look at Prosper's LinkedIn profile, you'll see some of the stories, some of the things that's happened, some of the roadblocks and challenges that he's overcome, because it really is an amazing story. And it's then very fortuitous that a teacher who changed your life, who is in education, obviously. And here we are today talking about education, because I'm a lifelong learner, much as you are. And I really think that it's important to be learning as much as we possibly can about the things that really do interest us. And I'm really fortunate. I'm a real fan of LinkedIn. I'm obsessed by it, if I'm honest. And I have found that by being intensely interested in it, I learn more. I'm interested in learning more, and I'm fortunate that the platform changes a lot. So there's always something more to learn, new ways to work, new ways to get our message out there. And LinkedIn, I think, is an ideal way for us to be able to do education marketing, which is what we're talking about today. So let's start that part of our conversation off by you explaining what education marketing is, and let's take it from there. What exactly do you see it as?
Oh, fantastic. And thank you so much for all that you're doing to educate your audience, especially on the nuances and new things that are constantly changing with the algorithms on LinkedIn. That in and of itself is an example of what education marketing is. So just so that people have an understanding, our audiences, our customers, they come to the internet to learn something, to be entertained, or to buy something. So if we are filling either one of these buckets for them, guess what then happens? People get to know, like, and trust you, and people do business with those they know, like, and trust. So education based marketing is just a simple strategy that actually focuses on you educating your target market, rather than daily promoting your products and services. Because as we all know, people like buying stuff, but they don't like being sold to. But if they're learning as they are going, then you're literally creating demand for your products and services.
Right. So that means that LinkedIn is a really good place for education marketing, which I think is absolutely fabulous. So how does it work? Why do people respond to it so well? Because you're right, none of us like to be sold to, and we like to feel we're making our own decisions. How true that is in this day and age. With social media, I'm not entirely certain, but we don't like to be sold to, and we want to learn at our own pace. So how does that work in terms of being able to get our message out there in terms of the sales funnel? Because of course everybody wants to go directly from, okay, I'm just meeting you as a potential client, and now I want to sell to you. But education marketing comes in the middle and bridges that gap. So how does it do that? And what are the steps that happen along the way to get somebody from that potential customer to saying, yes, I'll have that, thank you very much?
Fantastic. You see, we need to teach our customers what to want. All right. So when people show up on our online websites, they need to know exactly what they can ask of us to do for them. But how are they going to know if they are not quite well versed in exactly what it is that you are providing them? So the first thing that normally happens, we did mention that people buy from those they know, like, and trust, Lynnaire. So when you want to build trust, all right, right now you and I know each other. You know my story. You now know how I came to be. And for those that are learning a little bit about myself, then they are not just going to think I'm one of those people who just showed up with an offer. Nobody knows where their money is going to go when they click buy now. So at the end of the day, when you build trust, you are literally buying the confidence that people will have in dealing or transacting with you in the future. And by providing information, right, you automatically arm your customer with what to ask you to help them with, or they now have an understanding of if they need to either refer you to their the people that they trust. They at least have something they're going to show up with that will be saying, hey, look at what Lynnaire just wrote, why don't you have a quick look at it? So when we provide valuable information, we're actually positioning ourselves as an authority within our industry and building trust with our audience. If you look at the word authority, it has the letters or the word author in it. So authoring can be writing a book, can be writing LinkedIn posts, can be writing blog posts, can be actually publishing a podcast. When you show up and give people information, you're literally creating for and relating to the audience that you're going to be asking money off of. And once you can showcase that, you can demonstrate value, because I viscerally believe we do not get paid until we can show people the value that we're bringing to the marketplace. We don't get paid just for who we are. We actually get paid for what we can do for our audience. And if they don't know what we can do for them, what are they actually paying? What are they actually needing us for? So if you're not educating your audience, you're not creating any value within your business or any leverage that would then allow you to be called upon shows like this, to be allowed you to speak in spaces where people can actually want to know more and find out how they can make their lives better, because nobody really cares about you and I, Lynnaire. Even though we're doing this for them, they care about what can they get from this conversation. All right, people would rather be doing stuff, being busy with their lives or running their business, but some of them are sitting with us, and I really do appreciate every single person that's watching right now, because we are not entitled to having people sit here and listen to what we've got to say. Who are we? It's because of the track record that we have provided in the past. People now have a trust that when they show up, their time is not going to be wasted. They now have a trust that they're going to get value, and they will get actionable strategies, tips, and tricks for them to actually make their lives better. So how do you do that in advance? Right? You dig your well before you're thirsty. You put out content because we literally get paid in direct proportion to the value that we bring to the marketplace. So it doesn't matter who you are. Even if you're a landscaping company, all right, you might think people might not need to know, but there's a green thumb amongst us, as in Lynnaire, who wants to know how and when should I put the roses into the ground, and when should I put certain flowers or certain plants, so that she's not wasting her time and her seeds, and just having an understanding of that. So if you're a landscaping company and think people might not need to know anything about the work that you're doing, you might actually start creating guides on lawn care tips. All right, how can people take care of their lawn? Because if they don't have a lawn to take care of, they're not going to invite you to cut it. All right, so you are literally creating future work for yourself by allowing the customer to have an understanding of how the processes of what you do and how you help them actually works. So when you start showcasing your knowledge and your skills while providing value to people, people will automatically assume that you have a solution. And there's one thing that normally happens in humanity, Lynnaire. You mentioned that you were on my show earlier, right? And now you're only reciprocating or just sending back, the elevator, or sending back the basket, so to speak. All right. So if you give, you will definitely get something back. You might not get from the person who has read your post or who is actually listening to your podcast, but they might share this, because each and every one of us has an audience. Each and every one of us has a community, or also has people that know them, that trust their advice. And if you're giving people information, content, or stuff that of value for them, guess what happens? When something is of value, people want to share it, because sharing makes them sound and look intelligent, and people like to look good in front of the people that they know.
Well, that's it. I'm going to close this down and go home now, because I think we've covered everything. You've told us exactly why we need to be doing education marketing, and very succinctly and absolutely wonderfully. And I come from the same kind of value system as you clearly do too, Prosper, that it's all about giving and sharing. And I also believe that LinkedIn is all about relationships. Building relationships, not trying to sell to people. And you've already talked about building credibility. And absolutely, that's what LinkedIn is all about, because that is building then the know, like, and trust factor. And we do business with those people. So it makes an awful lot of sense to me that that's actually how we do it. So that said, how do we actually put this into practice? Now, I'm a writer. I've been a professional writer all my adult life. I absolutely love writing posts. I love writing articles. And I'm only lately a convert to live events, which is a bit odd when you consider I used to work in radio when I was young. But anyway, I am now doing live events, which is another form of content, and in a way, writing as well, because at the end of our events, we put together a transcript and then we edit it so that we can turn that into individual posts or into articles, or we take clips that we can then put into posts as well. Now, those are just some of the things that you can do on LinkedIn, which of course is an ideal platform for people who are wanting to sell services or products to other businesses, B2B. When it comes to B2C, LinkedIn may not actually be the best place to be doing that. So my question to you is this: if I am selling pizzas, for example, LinkedIn is probably not going to be the best place for me to telling people what goes into my pizzas, how hard my team work about making the pizzas, and all about our ovens and how they're high tech and all the ingredients that go into making a great pizza, because they're not going to be on LinkedIn. They are likely to be on any other number of social media platforms that are not LinkedIn. So when I say I can put up content that is articles and posts and videos on LinkedIn to reach the audience, if you're on other social media platforms because you run a digital marketing company that uses other platforms, how do you swap that around? How do you get to that audience using that same education marketing theme?
Fantastic. And that's a very beautiful question. I might just take you a little bit back so that people have an understanding of what this should look like. All right. So marketing can be boiled down to just 3 M's. So that's your message, market, and then media. All right. So your message is basically who you are, what it is that you are doing, and why should anybody care, right? And then the market then becomes who are these specific people that will triple, stumble, and fall to your proverbial door in order to get whatever it is that you're selling. All right. And then media can be video, podcast, live, articles, Instagram, infographics, whatever choice of showing up that you are able to do. So the very first thing that you really need to nail as your particular message. And with what we've been saying is, what do you want your future customers to literally ask you to do for them? And if you can tell them that through educating them, then you automatically get them to know, like, and trust you. And then the market now is, who are those people that you want to know about what you're doing? So you have elaborated that there's B2C and then there's B2B, right? If there is a B2B component, LinkedIn will be the best place for you to do that from, okay? But in order for you to not confuse yourself with everything else that is happening in the world, find out, what are you good at? Are you good at talking? Are you good at writing? Or are you good at, video, right? Because those are the three sort of main outlets that we now have to disseminate that message to that market that we have discovered. All right. So if you're good at writing, then you can start with blogging. You can start with articles. You can start with, LinkedIn actually allows you to craft a newsletter and social media posts and things of that nature, right? If you're good at video, you could do a LinkedIn live like this, and then grab that video off of LinkedIn, have it edited whichever way you want, chop it up and repurpose it for Facebook, repurpose it for YouTube, repurpose it for Instagram, wherever a video format is required. If you're good at podcasting, or if you're good at voice, start a podcast. That podcast would allow you to reach your audience in a way that is comfortable to you, and that podcast will now be repurposed into words through transcription. Or if you have a team, they can actually use that podcast into a video format. So when you find the one thing that you're really good at, that you can do at least with some sort of cadence or with some sort of consistency, you do that. And then the rest will definitely, once you've got a piece of content, you will know what to do with it distribution wise. So many people get bogged down with, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Find out, what am I good at? Am I good at writing? Am I good at video? Or am I good at talking? And then just create one piece of content. Because once you've got that one piece of content, I don't know how it works within your business. You can chop it up. You can, give it in small pieces. You have within, your content calendar, so many posts that you can utilize throughout. And LinkedIn just so happens to be a platform that you can then share some of those videos to. Facebook happens to be a platform that you can share those videos to. Your website for the blog now happens to be a place where people come to from all these other facets, of the internet. So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing, you just do that one thing that you're comfortable with, and then find out ways to redistribute that, instead of spraying and praying without knowing what it is that you're actually doing and making a lot of noise on the internet, forcing people to actually ignore you. Because if you're not showing people where you're headed, nobody's going to want to just jump on and follow you. So it starts really with yourself knowing what are you good at, and you do that.
Now, that's a really interesting angle on it, because I do things slightly differently. I will tend to go across different formats. Now, as I said, I've been a professional writer all my life, but a couple of years ago, when it became possible for us to originally do webinars, we did Zoom webinars to begin with, and then when LinkedIn Live came along, we moved to this platform and do them on a regular basis. We moved to that, and then I had to overcome my barriers to video. That was just recording short videos that I could then put up as posts on LinkedIn, because of course video is a really important, now it wasn't originally, but it's a very important component now of your content marketing on LinkedIn. And I found that really difficult. I wasn't naturally somebody who could stand up in front of a camera and speak coherently for any length of time. I'm very good at starting sentences with now. I'm very good at putting ums and ahs there we go, you see, into my comments. And so I found it was quite difficult to be able to, in the first instance, simply to overcome the barrier of not being able to speak for a certain length of time without really messing it up. The second thing I needed to overcome was the technical side of it. How did I record it? How did I edit it? And how did I then get it onto LinkedIn? Well, that was the easiest part of the whole process, to be fair, because the third part of it was in my head. Because I thought I couldn't do it, I couldn't do it. But then once I turned my head around and said, well, I'm going to do this, I'm actually going to learn how to do this, it all sort of started to fall into place. And so while I still do a lot of writing on LinkedIn and newsletters, I also do now a lot of video. And here's the thing. I give myself a bit of a break. If there's the odd sentence that starts with now, and then there's the odd and or a pause in what I'm saying, I figure that makes it sound natural, because I think that AI is making a big change to what's going on, not only in the big wide world in general, but on LinkedIn as well. And so it's very easy for AI, ChatGPT, to write something that vaguely sounds like us. I'm only saying vaguely because it certainly doesn't do a very good job, in my humble opinion. But it does sound well written and it's well structured, but often terribly boring to read. But with AI, we can be ourselves, right? There's really still the authenticity aspect of it. And so I'm really moving now to wanting to ask about how important that is in terms of the education marketing that we need to do, because we've already talked about the fact it builds visibility and credibility, which is really the important thing. And I really want to know whether you see that AI is a good thing in terms of what we're doing here, or whether there are some areas of that we really need to be concerned about, worried about, and again, barriers that we need to overcome.
Fantastic. And that's a very valid preposition, especially in the world that we now live in, where people would just want to do things using technology and things of that nature. Well, first of all, it's a matter of choice. Okay, if you really want people to connect with you, if you really want to do things with people, you want to literally reach out and give them a hug. And I don't think with AI you'll be able to do that. Okay. Yes, it can help you arrive at a destination, just like we've got cars right now. When you're going to a meeting, yes, you need a car to drive you to the destination, but you walk into the building on your own two legs. You don't drive the car up until you sit at the tables. So yes, the AI can drive us and do all the menial tasks behind, but we still have that last mile. We still have that human aspect of now saying, hey, I notice that you are having problems with this. I've been through that. Why don't you come around and let's have a chat? All right. AI wouldn't have that empathy and wouldn't have that consistency of knowing exactly what you said yesterday and what you're saying today, because it's just spitting out what you're asking it to say, because it's just overly the AI is just created like that. So yes, I literally use artificial intelligence to do the long mile stretch of a lot of the stuff, but there's always that one last mile where you literally have to, like you say, those arms, those me showing up, and just really, when people hear you, see you in person, there's a different connection that happens there.
Yeah, and I think that that's where video can really come into play, because at this point, most of us we show up on video as our authentic selves. And I do that at weekends when I talk about my garden on LinkedIn. I usually do a post on a Saturday about my garden or my gardening or what I'm doing. And I show up in my gardening clothes, not in a business suit. And I like people to be able to see me as I am, but on LinkedIn, because even though it's a professional platform, I think people need to get to know us, because if they don't know us, how can they like us or trust us? And so by sharing more personal content in video, I think that's really an important way to be able to get our personalities across as well. Now, you and I are really enthusiastic people. We come across, our enthusiasm is infectious, I think. And when we talk about the things that we love, then it just comes across in droves. But not everybody is like that, of course, and they find it really difficult. And when I look back at some of my earlier videos, they are so embarrassingly awful. So my point here is that practice really can make a difference. And while I think it can be useful to use AI when it comes to generating ideas for your content, as you say, you have to show up for that last mile to get those ideas out of your head, or to work with those ideas and get the information that your experience, your expertise, and get that out of your head and onto paper, onto your keyboard probably. And I think that how we are going to use AI in the future is going to be different from how we currently using it, because it's still in its infancy. There's no question around that. Now, I want to ask you about some risk factors. You're an SEO expert, and so I want to pick your brains on this particular one. When I put up my content on LinkedIn, I am using somebody else's platform. I might own the content, but in actual fact, LinkedIn owns the platform and the distribution of it. And so there's a real risk that I might wake up tomorrow and discover that Microsoft has sold LinkedIn to the Communist Party of China, which has then shut it all down, and I've lost everything. I don't think that's a real risk. That's just a silly example. But my point is valid, is that you can lose all your LinkedIn work and all your content, all your presence and your personal branding on somebody else's say-so. Now, how can we mitigate those kind of risks? Because it's the same with other platforms. I don't know about you, but I've already lost one Facebook account and never managed to get it back again, with all of the photos that were tied up with it. And so how common is it to lose all that material, and how do we stop that? I mean, not stop that happening, I don't think we can, but how do we reduce the risk?
Fantastic. You see, you can't, because the way these platforms are already created, if you're not paying money, you're essentially a product. So they can decide which of their products are profitable or not profitable. Okay, so if you're a business person, you can literally decide which products on your shelves do you want to eliminate that are just taking up shelf space. And it just so happens that that's what these platforms have been doing. For the past 4 years, Lynnaire, I haven't set foot on Facebook, and I am a digital marketer. Okay, so I will explain to you, just like you lost your platform. 2020, I got a slap on the wrist with Facebook, and they wanted me to showcase that I'm me. I think maybe because of the name and things of that nature, that I'm in Melbourne. So they wanted some sort of ID, and I was like, you know what? We're socially distancing right now. Let me worry about that. And before I knew it, I had been given 30 days to come and prove that I'm me. And that 30 days elapsed, and I completely lost my Facebook account. Now, just so that people see, Facebook had been the very thing that made me, especially in this industry. The first thing that I did was create a Facebook account for a restaurant that I was working at, and I almost got fired for it. So I had been really building a big Facebook presence. When Facebook Live came in, I was showing up every single day at 2 p.m. AEST for 30 minutes, and I was helping people start, scale, and grow a business that's profitable and enjoyable. So that's how invested I was in Facebook, and I lost all of that. Photos, all my kids growing up and things of that nature. So literally I had to start all over again, and that could happen. All right. But the one thing that you want to be doing is creating your own profile, your own platforms, and that in and of itself would be the saving grace. Because if you look at my hand right now, for those that are watching, your hand now becomes your own profiles. All these other finger inlets can now be your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook. All of those roads lead to the platforms that you have created. So all the work that you have been doing, you want to own that content. That's your IP, because as Lynnaire was saying, Facebook can just wake up and maybe some billionaire with $48 million can buy Twitter, or what is it called? X now. I'm not even on any of those platforms, or Facebook. It's called Meta now. See, that's how not connected with the platforms that I'm on, or whatever it is. So you want to control your content. So from your website, you own that piece of content. You own that real estate on the internet. Use platforms like LinkedIn to just connect with the audience and bring them home. All right. And when they do show up to the party you're inviting them, well, make sure there's some food for them to nibble on. That's the education content that you're putting on there. So just like we as human beings, when we have a housewarming party, we invite everybody else with invitations, a wedding or things like that. We show them to come to a venue. It's not just, on the 23rd, I'm going to get married. So you can celebrate in your house, or I can celebrate wherever you are, and then we call it a wedding. That's not how it works, unless it's the pandemic. But if you really want people in one place where you can control them, that way, when people show up, you now have an opportunity to remove them from just being a scroller on social media to somebody who literally is now starting to pay attention. And how do you do that? When they show up at your website, you exchange some of that value for their email address, and then you can now start speaking to them at their own convenience, not when it's convenient for you, because not everyone is going to be able to watch this live while we're live. They will watch it later on because you would have sent emails, because you connected with them a long time ago, and you're still just giving them enough information that one day maybe they might actually think, hey, listen, I like what you've been doing. Let's maybe see how we can work together, or let's see how you can help me. So create your own real estate on the internet, which happens to be your own website, and use social media to drive traffic to the educational places that you have created. And whatever you do with that then becomes your choice. But create for and relate to the audience that you're going to be demanding money off of, in a way that you are not at the mercy of other people or other people's platforms. Like right now, for the last 4 years, I haven't had Facebook, but I went on and I created something, and I still connect with a lot more people, way more than I did with, these platforms. So if you don't own it, put people where you actually own.
I think that's a very important point. And I'll tell you the other thing that we always make sure to do too, and that is that we always keep records of the content that we put up. So whether that's for our own, my own profile, our company page, our newsletter, our clients' content, all of our lives, not so much the audio events, although we do record those too, but everything that we do, we keep our own record of on our own system, so that should we lose access to any of these things, Facebook, LinkedIn, anything else, that we can still access all of that content. Now, we are today doing a LinkedIn Live, and this is also being streamed on your channels too, on your LinkedIn and on your YouTube channel, as I understand it, which means then people can see it instantly. But that doesn't give you necessarily that long-term access to it if those channels disappear. So I think it's really important for everybody to keep in mind that whenever you're writing anything for LinkedIn or preparing anything, is to keep a record of it in your own files so that you can always go back to it, so that you always have access to it. And the other thing I think most people don't understand, or they don't know really about LinkedIn, is that you can ask it for a download of anything and everything that you have on the platform, from your profile to your content to your comments to anything that you might have done on LinkedIn. You can ask LinkedIn to send you a download of it all. Good luck with that, because it'll take you forever to get through it, but you can actually keep a record of that as well. And that's something that I advise people to do, particularly to keep a track of their connections, that people that they're connected to, because if you suddenly lose access to everything on LinkedIn, then you want to be able to have a record of who those people are. So when you get back to LinkedIn again, that you can start to reconnect with the people who you were connected to before. So I think that those two tips are really important, to make sure that you do keep a good track of the content that you provide, and also that you download all the information that you possibly can from LinkedIn to keep a track of that too. Now, I want to ask you, Prosper, about the mistakes that you see people making when it comes to education marketing. What are the things that people do that make you just throw your hands up in horror and go, I give up, I'm just going to give up?
I know. See, at the end of the day, a lot of us don't quite know what we're doing, especially the platforms that we are on. I think we were talking the other time, LinkedIn is only 21 years old right now, is it?
Yeah.
If anything, all right. So you put that in human terms. If somebody is 21 in America, they are only allowed to start drinking. Okay, so you can imagine we're not going to be seeing that person for a while, because they've just tasted alcohol if that was the first time for them. And half of the time we engage these profiles when they were still teenagers. Now, teenagers have different mood swings. They have different needs. They wake up in a whole different world in and of themselves. And what we have done is course correct, try and follow these platforms. Some platforms give up and then somebody buys them, and all of a sudden they change their name. They're a whole different world in and of itself. So just stop. Find out who are you, who cares that you exist, and just show up for those people. The media can change all the time. I bet when we all started, you were a copywriter and you were writing things to publications that were in print. You were a salesman in print, but now you are now doing it in video. That's a different format. Coca-Cola has been there ever since I've known the brand. They've always had the same message to the same people, the same message, open happiness, or experience happiness to the same people, families, friends. Share Coke with Lynnaire, share Coke with Gina, share Coke with Emo, whoever. They did all those campaigns, but the media changes. First of all, they use trucks, then they use magazines, then they use radio, then they used social media and things of that nature. So you just know who you want to talk to, how best you can help them, and why it matters that you are the person that's helping them with that particular problem. And the media will change. I once heard there's TikToks and there's all those other radio type setups where you have to be listening. I don't even follow all that. And then there's that one, Needles. Is it called Needles or is it Threads? I can't keep up. There's just
Needles. I love it.
so much going on. But our message has to be the same. The market is the same people, right? Humans are always going to look for ways that they can have a happier existence. Does your brand, your message, your story align with where they are. Could it be their health, their wealth, their relationships? And then find the best way that they can show up and listen and partake in that information, and make sure you're controlling some of that content as well. There's another media that came up and really confused a lot of people, and it's called SEO. I turned it around. Okay, instead of trying to appease the Google gods and everybody else behind the scenes, SEO should stand for simply educating others. Are you educating people on who you are, what it is that you do, and how you help them? Or you can say simply entertaining others. Because when you show up and you educate and you entertain and you work with people, or you are empowering them, people will seek out content that's relevant to them, seek out content that helps them be, do, and have a happier existence. The rest, let me tell you, the algorithms are still trying to figure out themselves. Don't add to the noise. Don't add to the confusion. You have one life, and you might as well make it the best existence that you have. That's all I can say.
Well, I think your phrase simply educating others is a great way to look at SEO. And that makes such a lot of sense to me, because really, when you're writing or videoing or on an event, you are talking directly to people. And it was one of the things that I found that happened a lot when I was a full-time copywriter, was that people didn't understand, mainly clients, they didn't understand that you were talking to people. What they wanted people to know wasn't what the people themselves wanted to hear. And from their perspective, it was all about talking about how wonderful they were. It was all about them, right? Now, you and I both know that it's not all about the companies. It's all about what the companies can do to solve the problems of the people that it serves. And it's not the people that it sells to, it's the people that it serves. And I think that if we were to turn all of that around and people were to remember that that's what social selling is all about. It's about serving, social serving, not social selling. Then the world would be a happier place, because it wouldn't be so bombarded with all of these emails, messages, posts, all kinds of content about what people want us to know about. And then we need to stick to our guns, and then we need to be able to do what we want to do, which is to share the information that we know, that we have spent a lifetime of learning and amassing through our experience, through the companies we've worked for, the mistakes, dare I say it, that we've made along the way, been one or few of those, and that we have come out the other side of that with this bundle of knowledge and ideas and opinions and wisdom, really, that we want to share with others. And I just maintain that LinkedIn is an excellent vehicle for being able to amplify your knowledge and your experience and your expertise in so many of the different ways that we've talked about today. So in wrapping up, Prosper, I'd like to ask you, what of the many things that I've got notes for Africa, isn't that a terrible saying? I've got notes all over the place from the things that you have been saying today. And when we go through the transcript, I'm going to just go, oh, I'd forgotten he said that. I must really remember that one. There's been so much value here, but I'd like to ask you to distill it down into three tips, three main ideas, three main messages that we can go away with today, and potentially implement in what we're doing in our education marketing.
Fantastic. And before we run out of tape, Lynnaire, I really appreciate what you're doing, educating your audience and really exposing people to content like this, because this is something that a lot of people are not privy to. So I don't know, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much. And I think it's shared behind the scenes. We're loving this. All right. Now, in essence, we get paid in direct proportion to the value that we bring to the marketplace. You could be a good dad, a good mom, a good sister to the people that you love, but to the marketplace, they vote with their wallets. So the only way they exchange those wallets so that that money is transferred into our accounts so we can be do and have a happier existence, or in my world, business that's profitable and enjoyable, we need to exchange that with a value. But we can't just spray and pray with our marketing. So the first thing that you got to do is know your audience. Who is it that you want knocking on your door when it's all said and done? Who are you creating for and relating to? Because you're going to be needing to do this consistently. So you absolutely have to love and adore this person so much that while everything is happening, you can even offer to babysit for them. You can even offer to wash their car. So if you can't do that for your audience, then that means you're not invested in them. Right? So understand their needs, understand their preferences, understand their pain points for the target audience so that you create relevant and valuable content that you will be disseminating to them. Because right? See, what I just
Right.
asked you,
Yeah,
was
yeah.
if I started, yeah, exactly. So what I just did to you is a lot of us are showing up, speaking our native tongue and expecting people to respond. But that's not how it works. Right? So know who your audience is, speak their language, and help them by actually helping them. And then number two, be authentic. Because if you're not, you're going to burn out. And guess what? People are not going to look past yesterday, especially if we're in business, to see, oh, maybe she's taking a break or things of that nature. Just be who you are so that you can show up every single day and you can consistently do that all the time. And for me, authenticity is just finding out, like I said, what are you good at? And then just show up in that platform, in that format. All right. If you're good at video, continue with video. All right. If you're good in writing, don't try and pass on AI's work and say that's you. Just show up in your authentic space. People can tell the difference. You and I sat here for almost an hour. We're laughing, we almost cried, and we're creating value in the process. People are not going to say, this was probably downloaded from some chat thing or things of that nature. No, people will rewind this, watch this, look at my hand signals, and listen to your ums and ahs that you were telling us about. That's us, you know. Even though I didn't get the memo of the red, uniform today, but I tried. This is the best I could do on short notice. We showed up. All right. So you want to share your genuine insights. You want to share your experience because your life story and your experience have so much value. The rest they can Google. They want to know how you became who you are. The rest they can find some chat GPT can write it for them. So you want to establish your credibility. You want to really, really connect with your audience on a personal level. That way you can actually differentiate yourself from all the other Me Too people out there. And then last but not least, measure. What's working, you keep. What's not working, you ditch. There's no point in just spraying and praying out there, tarnishing your image just because it was said that this is how it's supposed to be done. Certain things no longer work. Certain approaches no longer work. We are in a post-COVID era. Certain things are now normal. Showing up on Zoom like this is now normal. If you still want to meet people in face to face, then they're like, let's just do a Zoom. And you're like, no, I like face to face. You're not trained for the world we now live in. So how do you stay relevant? You measure what's working and what's not working in ditch, and just track the performance of all that educational content, such as maybe the engagement, the lead generation, because at the end of the day, we need to be driving all those eyeballs into emails back when that we can actually now start creating for and relating to. We don't necessarily, if you really look at your business, some of us don't need more than 10 clients for us to be profitable. So look at how many people you actually need and just go out there and find those people and do what you can to make sure that you are with them the rest of the way. Because if you do your job well, you become a friend, and friends talk about anything with their friends. So when you now start showing up, talking about just about your gardening, your whiskey, your being
Gin.
ads, gin. Yeah, you talk about gin, it no longer feels awkward or vague because you're talking to your mates. So that's all I can say. Just create for and relate to the audience you want to be demanding money off of, and the rest will take care of itself.
You have shared such valuable information today. You have just lived what the topic was all about, Prosper. And as I say, when I go back over the transcript of this, I am just going to go, oh, we said this. I remember that. That sounds great. I really need to be thinking about this. And we are going to be sharing some of the information that you have given us today in some of the different formats that you have been talking about today. So, because I think it's all very well just to talk about things, but you have to be seen to be walking the talk. And we do like to do that by making sure that we reuse content from our events wherever we possibly can, because we love holding events, but they take a lot of work. And so the best thing that we can do to give back to the people who have spent their time coming to our events, and people like you who have been our honoured guests on our events, is to give back by sharing the information that you have shared with us to a wider audience. And if anybody who is watching or listening or reading is not connected to Prosper or is not following him, I absolutely urge you to whiz over to his LinkedIn profile and do exactly that. He has a podcast too, which you'll find on all the podcast channels. Prosper, give us the name of that. I have completely forgotten it.
Absolutely. It's called the Online Prosperity Show.
Online Prosperity Show. You'll find me as one of the guests on that. And of course, Prosper has his YouTube channel as well. So please do make sure that you follow, you subscribe, you read, you watch, and you listen to all of his amazing content. Prosper, thank you. Thank you. You have just been amazing with what you have shared. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. So thank you for making the time.
Well, I can't thank you enough. Like I told you, I was camping outside your, production video place here, just waiting because I couldn't wait to meet you. Not necessarily for what we were about to do, but for the person that you have become. You've introduced me to people like Gina and other clients that I've told you about in the past, and yet we haven't actually collaborated. Now, can you imagine when we actually start sitting down and creating for and relating to our audiences? And I just love the fact that you are leading with education, and literally the proof is in the pudding. So I value what you are doing, and on behalf of everybody else that's watching and anybody else who watch some of your content, I think you're doing God's work. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I, again, appreciate everything that you have done and given and shared, and just your sheer enthusiasm and personality. It's just been absolutely fabulous. So thank you very much again. And thank you to everybody who's joined us today. Thank you for all the chat that's been going on in the comments. I've seen them whizzing up and down while we've been talking. So thank you for taking such an active part in our LinkedIn Live today. I'll be back next month with another LinkedIn Live, but next week I'll be running an audio event, Linkability Radio, as I call it, as a nod to my broadcasting background when I was really young. And so I do hope that you'll join us at this time next Thursday for that too. So thank you again to Prosper. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you again very soon. Bye for now.